AD Mitchell out of Texas. I mean, his stats, when you compare him to Xavier Worthy, they pale, 0.17 career adjusted receiving yards per team pass attempt compared to Worthy's 1.39. But they're going in a similar range in mock drafts. I heard Adam Schefter on Established the Runs podcast this week say that he wouldn't be surprised if AD Mitchell went in the sort of low 20s, high teens range of the draft. So we know that quarterback play also wasn't a strength at Texas this year, but they've had good players come out of there. Dwain, are you willing to ignore any of the stats on Mitchell and just draft him kind of ahead of where he's been going, or project him to do better than sort of the model expects? Or do you feel like there are some concerns that we're right to sort of lean into?
Look, I think he's the most overrated wide receiver in the draft. I don't know how this player is a first-round pick. I really don't. We've seen AD Mitchell before. Now, look, there are people that do film that I get it. I hear them talk about the way that AD Mitchell moves, and I tried to think through those things. But at the same time, like, your inability to ever really have a huge season, period. You've got the pedigree. You went to Georgia. You ended up transferring over to Texas. But again, like in my model, I'm accounting for bad quarterback play. I'm accounting for the fact you had to compete with Xavier Worthy and Jatavion Sanders for targets. I'm accounting for the fact that you were a down the field target, which is going to increase your contested catch rate and all those sort of things. So it's like the model's kind of made to make sure a player like this doesn't like get overly dinged, and he still just shows up really bad in the model. Now, I have gone and watched him play, and I get it. I think the problem is, like, show me when AD Mitchell has consistently done these things. He seems to be the kind of player that when he has his moment and he's like, I'm going to turn it on today. I've got to play against the best cornerback in the league, and I'm going to go put this film on, and everybody in the draft process is going to fall in love with me because of that. Like, we had Trevor Sikkema on the show a couple of weeks ago, and Trevor's an awesome analyst for over at PFF, and he loves AD Mitchell. Like, he thinks that, like, he has got the rare tools that give him this super high ceiling. My challenge is, like, go back and try to look at players like AD Mitchell that were size, speed freaks that honestly did nothing in college. I can't find examples that worked out. I mean, Rich, maybe you have, and I'm hoping if you're an analytical person that can tell me AD Mitchell's good, I'm honestly looking for one. Is there a person that is an analytically minded person that can tell me AD Mitchell is good? Because, like, I don't get it. I think he's a raw size speed prospect. How are we talking about this guy as a first round pick?
I agree 100%. I think
you had a good answer for me, man.
No,
tell me I'm an idiot.
No, I don't get it. I just, there's no age adjusted production. Even when you put on the film, I see flashes, but I think it's more style over substance. It's the big over exaggerated head fakes to create separation rather than just creating separation naturally. But I mean, yeah, if you look at it analytically, he's like below 25th percentile in RIPTA. He's below, he's 12th percentile in target share per game. Like, it's just not a player that commanded volume and production at the college level. And whenever you're going to put him into a production-based model, a guy that didn't produce is going to struggle. So yeah, I don't see it. I don't get it. The idea of taking him over Xavier Worthy, I find absolutely mad.
Yeah, I guess the thing is, yeah, they're production-based models to an extent, but really only because we're following the data trail of what are things that correlate to future production. Oh, this dirty little thing we call fantasy points, but whatever. You want to call it receiving yards and touchdowns. Like not you, but like some people do that. They'll be like, based on what metrics? I'm like, yards, catches, AKA fantasy points. Like, we really all want the same thing from these guys. But like, we get ourselves in a pretzel, like, just to act like, oh, I'm not talking about fantasy. But like with Mitchell, like, here are the closest comps. So like, if you look at it, and like 25% of his targets came 20 plus yards down the field. So I get it. He could be a guy who could stretch the field out for you. He wasn't, a high-end target earner, but he was good when he was getting those targets. 519 yards and 8 touchdowns over his career on those targets, 20 plus yards down the field. But here's the challenge. So while being a deep threat, size, those things are really good, and you can find a niche role on a team, having someone like that turn into the archetype of player, what you should be looking for in a round 1 NFL pick, in my opinion. I'm not running a franchise. Like the closest comps I could find for him, and I had to drop draft capital out of it because it's impossible. But Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Miles Boykin. MVS had a 31st percentile adjusted career RIPTA coming out of USF. Boykin had a 16th percentile at Notre Dame. And if you look at the relative athletic scores, which people fall in love with, the RAS, the Boykin, Adonai Mitchell is really close. So the average collegiate wide receiver in Mitchell's ADOT range, like not even focusing on, talents that made it to the NFL, just period, looking at college players, they're 1.52 receiving yards per pass attempt. Like when you look at Mitchell, he's 14% below that at 1.30. So even after like calibrating for like the exact role he played and giving him all the excuses in the world, I can't find a way to love him. And the closest comps I can find are MVS and Boykin, which is not good.
And you've just comped into two of Tom's favorite players ever. So I guess we're going to see Tom drafting a lot of AD Mitchell.
Tom, let's get some AD Mitchell, baby.
Well, I just like to say, I definitely didn't ever draft much Miles Boykin, but I was definitely excited for him based on all the analytical stuff that was being hyped up about him. And yeah, he definitely fell flat on his face. And I mean, just never got on the same page.
It's funny
as anyone,
though, even
really.
when you hear film people talk about this, oh, he's fast. He can hit the deep area of the field. What are NFL teams not letting you do on defense anymore? Attack the deep area of the field. Okay, so okay, great. And then it is, but he's really fast and he did well at the combine. What's something for receivers that we pretty much know? I don't want to say it has zero signal because NFL teams care about it. It goes into draft capital, but there's not a huge signal in anything in the combine or RAS when you really look towards correlating to future fantasy production, yards, receptions, those sort of things. Yeah, the vertical is nice, so I don't mind if somebody puts that in their model, but it's mostly things that we've already tested out in the past to say, like, these are not optimal things. And now these are the things that we care so much about with AD Mitchell. So even like if he hits, like, can he be more than a role player? Like, I don't know. Like, I get real worked up about AD Mitchell.